Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. This episode is sponsored by some incredible peepers at Matter Behavioral Health in Mount Pleasant, Utah. Guys, thank you so much for your support. And we've got a ton of other sponsors and other people who believe in what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. And so just thank you guys so much. And Sylvia, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us.
Thank you for asking me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey guys, we have a real special guest with us today. We have Steve Chandler, and I was reading in one of his books that he is known as like the Godfather of Coaching. And I got to read a little bit more about Steve. And I'm sure Steve Hardison is a really good friend of yours. And I read a little bit about Steve Chandler in his book, The Ultimate Coach. And when we were interviewing Chris Doris, I don't know, about a month or so ago, after the show, we were talking and he goes, oh, yeah. And he showed me a picture of you and Chris together. And he says, I could get you in contact with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. I reached out to Steve Chandler and he was nice enough to respond. And here he is. He's on our show. So Steve, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I really admire the work you do and the mission you're on.
Well, thank you so much. You know, and I was reading a section in your book. It was the Deathwish book where you were talking about that you don't like to be a tribute, right? That there's not a tribute to you because it's an attempt to reach out or to reach someone who is still suffering. Mm. And that brought chills when I read that, because that's the whole purpose of doing this show. Is my wife battled alcoholism for many years. And it got to where it's almost been 5 or 6 years ago, because she's just hit 17 months sober. But man, when it was in the depths of her addiction, even us on the other side, we don't know what to do. We think we do, but all we do is really put more fuel on the fire. So I'm really excited to read the rest of your book to see what you have to say. But could you just let our listeners know a little bit more about you?
Yeah. I went through a real terrible period in my life where I had alcohol and drug addiction, mainly alcohol. And it really was the end of the road for me. I'd messed up every part of my life you can imagine and really saw no hope or no way out. And fortunately, I had a friend who took me to a 12-step meeting, and I didn't know. I was so much in denial for how self-afflicted all my problems were. And so that was the start of a whole new life for me. And it was a real awakening, because what it woke up in me more than anything, and I've devoted my professional life to it ever since, is how much people can change, and how radically they can transform who they are in the world and who they are for their family and for themselves. I had been stuck in what most psychologists at that time thought, you're not going to change. You're perfectly formed at the age of 10 years old or something. And the rest is just, how do you take that imperfect, wounded personality into the world and cope with existence? And that was such a set thing in my generation way back then, that people don't change. They are basically who they are, and that's it. And I found out that was really not true at all. And I got my inspiration from people who were recovering from alcohol, hearing their stories, hearing about what their lives were like, and then seeing them now. And I just couldn't put two and two together. How could this vibrant, healthy looking, happy person have really done the things that she said she had done under alcohol addiction. So that was a turning point in my whole life. And it was a process that led me in a totally new direction. And ever since then, I've been in the world of helping other people change in various ways through life coaching and through seminars and the books I write. So in a funny way, and it sounds weird to people, I am so grateful. If I had not had the addiction I had, I never would have gone through the kind of in-depth transformative program I went through. And I never would have seen any aspect of a spiritual life for myself. It just never would have happened. I was too much of a cynic and a skeptic, and my intellectual credentials included mockery of all things spiritual.
Yeah.
Like that's woo-woo, that's not real science, that's not reality. And I would have been stuck in that mindset had I not gone through this addiction. Now, I'm not saying I recommend addiction for anybody.
Right.
Because I don't, because most people don't get through. Most people don't see the other side of addiction. It's just too tragic and fatal and terminal, and it's life destroying. But for those of us who do make it to the other side, it can be just a glorious awakening to what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoy what you're saying here. And I get it. Because even with us, with myself, when my wife was in the depths of her addiction, I mean, really, Steve, it took me down that same rabbit hole. You know, and I've shared in my talks that being the man of the house and being her husband, my job is to protect her and make sure that she's being taken care of. And I'm supposed to fix things when they're broken. And I'm not saying fix things when they're broken, saying that she was broken, because she wasn't broken. Okay. She was just lost somewhere else. But to see where all that took me, and you know, here Utah, or the Pronus religion here is LDS. Both my wife and I, our families are LDS. I look at myself a little bit more as spiritual, you know, even though I am that religion, but I like to say that I'm more spiritual. And when I'd go to AA meetings with her, and I'd hear these people get up when they're getting their 1-year chip or their 5-year, 30-year, whatever it may be, talking about how thankful that they were that God made them an alcoholic or a drug addict. And when the first time I heard that, I thought the guy that said that was just absolutely freaking nuts, thanking God that he was an alcoholic. But as time went, I understood it. And when I would hit my knees asking God, what can I do to help my wife in the depths of her addiction? Because I just kept doing the same thing, expecting different results. And I tried the same thing for years and nothing was working, but that's all I knew what to do. Once things started changing, I knew that's the reason why we went through what went through, because now my wife and I are going to recovery centers. We're telling our stories. I've got incredible people that God has put in front of me to do this podcast. We've had some incredible guests on our show that it sounds like you've met those same type of people where, I mean, we've had people on our show that lived on the streets, ate out of garbage cans, sold their body for drugs or alcohol. And you look at them now and you're just going, there's no way. There's no way this person did that, you know? Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's nothing short of the miraculous. And the spiritual component, no matter how you describe it, you can make it fit any religion you're in. You can harmonize spiritual recovery with whatever religion you're in. It fits.
Yeah.
But that component is the vital component, at least for me and my friends and family members who've been through it, that component was, that had to be there, or else the false spirit, alcohol used to be called spirits in the old days.
Yeah.
That false spirit has to be replaced. It can't just go away. It has to be replaced with a true spirit and a new community of hope and helping other people. And that becomes a fuller, truer replacement of spirit to what alcoholics and addicts are seeking in their substance that they're using. They're seeking freedom and relief from mental suffering and from confusion. And after a while, it becomes the only thing in your life that you can rely on to take the pain away, even though after a while it becomes only very temporary, and the negative kickback, the hangovers, the bad behavior far outweigh the relief that drinking gives you. In fact, after a while, whether it's drugs or alcohol, you have to take the same amount that you used to take that had you feeling euphoric or courageous, just to feel somewhat normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a nightmare very fast.
Did you, it was you alone that had to come to that realization. It wasn't dependent on your family or a loved one. I have 3 sons that are, 2 of them are drug addicts and 1 kind of dabbled. I have noticed in the older 2 boys that reaching out to them, trying to have them realize the things that they were destroying, like their children and their families and their mother, it just was not enough. I had to step back. When a friend told me just one simple phrase, he said, "He's an adult," and it completely changed everything, how I was reacting. I had finally reached, after my 3rd son, finally reached a point where I realized I can't do anything. It is up to him. And it even made all the difference to him.
Yeah.
And he's realizing that it is up to him. He's a smart young man. And just, is that the point where you came to realize it was just between you and God?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a lot of well-meaning friends and family members who said, "You're in real trouble.
Yeah.
This isn't normal. You need to get help. Look what you're doing." And I was in so much fear of having to give it up that I would rationalize, and I'd be in denial, and I'd say, "Hey, I'm just a free spirit. I love life. I like to party. I'm a wild and crazy guy. And if you're a stick in the mud and you don't want to drink with me, that's your problem." And I had to see it, like you said, I had to see it for myself. I had to have that moment alone with myself where I really saw it. This is not normal. It is not sustainable, and it is no longer giving me what it did at the very beginning, or I thought it was. And you're right, that realization has to come to the person.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't do anything, because every once in a while I've had friends or people who've done an intervention of some kind that's been very dramatic, and it puts someone in a treatment center, and they had a major confrontation, and every once in a while that'll work. That's not off the table as an option.
Right.
But it doesn't work very often. Robert Downey Jr., the actor, I think he went to 7 treatment centers before he finally got it for himself. Because every time he went, he was going for other people. And I'm trying to please other people, or
Or get ready for a role.
get ready for a role. I need to be I need to be clear and clean to memorize my lines. And after this movie, I'm gonna get drunk. So yeah, you're right. It has to happen internally.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you guys brought that up because, and I've said this on the show before, when my wife was, I think it was her third rehab that she was in, she had, like this therapist person that she would go and speak with. And I got called in once so she could speak with me. And I remember arguing with her when she told me, Al, there's nothing that you can do to help your wife. And I'm like, yeah, bull crap. You watch me. Yeah, you watch me. I'm going to prove you wrong. I tried it for a couple more years before I finally realized she was right. And it's because it is up to that person, right? Because when my wife first started going to rehab, she did the same thing, Steve. She went because I was asking her to go. It wasn't for her. She was doing it for me. And it took me a long time to realize those who have really made it on the other side, whatever it may be, whether it was a spiritual visit, whether something else happened to them, whether they hit the lowest of low, that just where that light bulb went off and they're like, you know what, that's it. This is it for me. It's time to move forward.
Yeah.
And so what was it for you that, because you said earlier that you would justify things so you could keep going, right? You would do everything you could to justify. And my wife did the same thing. I mean, once she told me, she goes, what if I love ice cream. So she says, what if I told you you could never have another bowl of ice cream the rest of your life? How would that make you feel? And I'm going, well, that would really suck. But yet ice cream isn't causing me to go to rehab or causing family issues or different things like this. And I mean, it's unhealthy sugar wise, but yeah, I mean, what was it that got you just to kind of click and go, okay, this is it?
Well, one of the key moments for me was going in and finally deciding, all right, I'm gonna check this program out. But I kept thinking, there is no way that I'm going to quit drinking forever. That's an unreasonable request to make of any human being. And I lucked out and I got a sponsor, and he said, nobody here is asking you to quit drinking forever. That's not how our program works. And I said, well, oh, okay. So like New Year's Eve, can I jot down a few times I can drink? And he said, all we're asking is you do not drink today. And can you do that? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And he said, that's it. That's how it works. And what it showed me was, instead of having my mind worry about the future, what if I go to a wedding and I can't drink? Or what if I go here, my old friends get together and all that thought. In one of the meetings I was in, there was a sign on the wall that said, your best thinking got you here. And I realized there is something beyond thought. There's something beyond worrying about the future. And it has something to do with pulling my consciousness back into the present moment and living one day at a time and making this day, there's an old gospel song, today is the day the Lord has made. And this is the day. And all you have to do is not drink today. Now, that's also true when you wake up tomorrow, but you don't have to think about that. So enough days strung together, and my life began to change in such positive ways that over time, there was nothing you could do to get me to drink over time, because I had enough days of having the old demons cleared away, the old thinking faded away, the old habits went away. And I could see that I don't want to give this life up for anything or anyone.
Wow.
And but that was the moment for me, is when he said, just worry about today.
Mhm.
That's all you have to ever worry about, is who you're going to be today.
Well, and that should be for all of us. You know, I've talked with a lot of our guests that have come on the show that's battled addiction, and I feel honored to have these people next to me or on a Zoom call. And it's because they get life. You know, while a lot of us are pretending that our lives are so glorious, even though we may not battle
Facebook life.
like a Facebook life. Yeah, everything's fantasy. Look at me. Life is hunky dory, you know, trippendicular or whatever kind of words you want to use. But yeah, so in 2009, I decided to start changing my life. Started reading self-help books, and I'm not a big reader. I'm still a slow reader, but I love these books that I'm getting and learning so much. And I realized I wanted to better myself. And when I started hearing these stories from people at AA meetings and hearing how their life's at and where it's at now, I told my wife one time, I'm like, you guys get it. And what I meant by you guys are the alcoholics and the drug addicts, or whether you're addicted to porn or gambling, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, but you get it. You get how life is supposed to be meant to live. And you just said it, Steve, that instead of worrying about tomorrow, just go with what life's given you today. And I have been working on that and working on it. And I cannot believe how better my life is seeming to be, because yeah, I'm not thinking about, okay, well, what if this happens tomorrow? Or what if this person doesn't call? Or what if I don't have the money for this or that? If I just let it go and just give it up and give it over to something greater than me, it seems like things always seem to work out. And I think too many of us still, even though if we don't battle an addiction, we're so busy fighting and trying to keep up with the Joneses and make ourselves look so glorified, when, you know, life isn't easy. It's hard for everyone. Some of us just learn how to deal with certain traumas in a different way. Maybe we don't fall back to addiction, you know, others may fall back into being workaholics, or there's people that I know that they live at the gym because that's how they cope with things. But again, even that stuff is just a Band-Aid over the cuts.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are less life-threatening forms of addiction that people have. Addiction, like you mentioned, Facebook, social media, addiction to the approval of other people. That can take over someone's life, and addiction to all kinds of things. And yeah, it has a lot to do with the ego. You know, one of the things they told me in meetings was, see if you can leave your ego at the door and just come in and be open, without trying to impress anybody, or without trying to win people over or anything like that, but just come in and be open. And that really worked for me in recovery, but it also carried over to the rest of life, because I was doing things like giving talks, motivational speeches. And my coach, Steve Hardison, whose book you've got there, I would go out there and try to be like Tony Robbins or Joel Osteen or somebody like that. You know, a secular evangelist firing up the room. And he would pull me aside and he'd say, you know, why don't you just be you? You have great, when we're with you and you're not on stage, you've got wonderful stories. You've got a way of telling them, you've got insights, just go do that. And I said, well, I don't know. And, but I did. And all of a sudden, the talks got more successful, more in demand. And I just started talking about life. And I I wasn't trying to be egoic or be a certain personality who had to win
Yeah.
people over and impress people.
Well, I think in a way, we all have our crosses to bear. We all have an addiction. And like you said, it could be our cell phones, it can be social media. Stepping back with this realization that I had mentioned before, if we understand that we're only responsible for ourselves, that can make all the difference in the world. When we start to improve who we are, then we can't really blame ourselves when someone we love does something that hurts them, and just be there for them.
Right.
We all have improvements in our lives. So that's one thing that I have been learning a lot, especially after all my, so many of my children struggling with these drugs. I thought, you know what, I've got my own problems too. And when we concentrate on ourselves, that can make a lot of difference. It can, that I think that helps those that are struggling turn to us for help when they need that, to be just to be ourselves, be a pillar.
That's right. Be like Gandhi used to say, be the change you wish to see. When I realized with my kids, I had 2 of my 4 children got into addiction. And I realized, and they were grown, but still, it doesn't matter. You keep wanting to parent them anyway. My only job was to love them and be there for them. My job was not to fix them or perfect them or interfere with their lives. And that made it a lot easier, because all I had to really communicate is, I know you're going through a hard time. I want you to know I'm here for you. I want you to know I've been there, and I have no judgment. I just want you to be well and happy any way that happens. And it took all the pressure off to have that non-judgmental love going out to someone. It takes pressure off them. They're not pushing back. They're not feeling judged.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're not putting that wall up.
That's right. That's right. And so they're more likely to be more open to you and say, you know what, I really do need help, or I really realize this. And so I like what you said. The work is here. It's not out there fixing other people. It's on the inside. And then your example of your own happiness, your own well-being, your own spiritual nature is a much bigger influence on your children, your loved ones, than anything I'm trying to do to fix and correct them and teach them.
Yeah,
It's true.
And I am starting to see us shift in, like, a lot of the recovery centers, Steve. They're actually changing a lot of their names. Instead of so-and-so recovery center, they're calling themselves so-and-so health center. Because I believe a lot of them now are shifting of healing the person or helping the person heal from the inside out, where before that wasn't happening, and AA has helped thousands and thousands of people. I mean, they have done, the big book has helped a lot of people. And there are some rehabs that will take just a little bit of the big book, but they've also put in their own thing as far as their health. And the reason why I like seeing it, because it really helped me when I decided to change. That's when I started seeing a change in my wife. And that's what we've been talking about. I remember once she started coming back around and her health started getting better, and she had been, I don't know, maybe about a month and a half sober, maybe 2 years sober. She came up to me one day and she's like, "You've changed." I'm like, "No, I haven't," because I hadn't even realized that I had changed, but I changed the way that I was thinking on things. And she goes, no, you've changed. It's almost like you're moving on with your life without me. And it's like, no, I don't want to move on with my life without you. I want you to jump on this train with me, but you have to decide whether you want to jump on or if you want to stay left behind. And since then, I mean, here we are, all these months sober, and our relationship has gotten better. I mean, we still have our moments. We're still growing together. We're still learning this new thing, but the change has just been incredible.
Yeah. And I think the good news is there's no end to it.
Yeah.
Spiritual, whatever you want to call it, spiritual evolution, spiritual growth, it has no end point. It's literally infinite. And I remember going to a meeting in northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, and I was walking through the snow, and I got to the meeting, and I thought, why do I have to do this? I'm fine. And there was a man in the meeting, and at that time I was in my 40s, and he had to be in his 80s. And he stood up and he said, I've been in this program for 20 years, and I'm barely scratching the surface of how wonderful it is and how transformative and beautiful it is. I'm barely scratching the surface.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that just hit me like there's no real end or reason to end whatever this got started, like you people say, on the other side of addiction. On this side of addiction, the world is finite. It's nothing but compartments and obstacles and problems and roadblocks. On the other side, the finite dissolves into the infinite. And that's the beautiful part, but that's a part that's very hard to explain to people who are still drinking, still using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted my book to do, is to say that it's not just recovery doesn't just mean you're the same person without the alcohol or without the drug. It's much bigger than that. It's much more wonderful than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard thing to get across to people who are still trapped.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like I said earlier in the show, I tried everything, Steve, with my wife. I mean, really, I did. I tried kneeling down in front of her, just bawling my eyes out, going, why are you doing this? To where it was nothing but anger. I had people say, nope, you got to do the tough love. That's the only way you're going to do it. I tried the tough love, and yeah, it didn't matter what I tried. It just nothing. And it's because she wasn't ready, and her sponsor used to tell me that at times too. It's like, she's just not ready, Al. Until she's ready, hopefully she'll get it. But yeah, it's just a tough situation. And this is like coming into the studio every Thursday. This is my therapy, in all honesty, because I get to speak with incredible people like yourself, Steve, and I get to understand a lot more of the addiction and what's going on. And it really helps me. So even those times when my wife would be struggling, she told me once she wished for once I'd be her husband instead of her damn therapist. Wow. And she nailed it. But did I get it? No, I still didn't get it, because I wasn't listening, because I was still trying to be her therapist, Yeah.
That's all you knew how to do at the time.
Yeah.
That you are absolutely innocent in trying everything you could think of to help her, and also to relieve the problems that was causing the relationship and the family.
Yeah.
It's not, it's certainly understandable that family members really freak out and get upset and do whatever they can. And they try everything from over-involvement to the silent treatment to separation and everything they can think of. And they're doing their best.
Yeah.
And there's no wrong way to respond to something that is that dysfunctional. And you're not really talking to her, the pure form of her.
Correct.
Because the alcohol, even if the alcoholic has been sober a little while, there's still that twisted alcoholic thinking that's in there. And you're talking into that, and you're wondering why she can't hear you like a regular human being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the phrase that cunning, baffling, and powerful, that when a drug gets into a person and they get addicted, they're not the same person anymore. Mm-hmm. You're talking to the drug, you're talking to the alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's a losing battle usually.
Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it right on the head. Cause there was a few times when my wife was in rehab for 6 months, and during that 6 months up to the time where she'd get out, I'd start seeing her coming back. I'd start seeing this woman that I fell in love with, and I'm going, oh my gosh, it is so nice. But even after 6 months, that's still not that full person that I fell in love with, even after 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, I used to tell her she would bait me, you know, she'd wait till I'd start opening my heart and start giving a little bit more of that trust. And then she'd go right back into the addiction again. And I was hitting my knees, bawling my eyes out again, going, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
go ahead.
Very hard to understand if you're not an alcoholic yourself. It's hard to make any sense out of alcoholic behavior or drug behavior. Why in the world would you do that? And it's really hard for family members. They suffer a great deal when they're with an addict or an alcoholic, because it is so baffling and mind-boggling and frustrating, and it's a tough thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me, Steve, was the last time when her last drunk was. And I literally, when I was looking at her in the eyes, when I was taking her up to the hospital for detox, I swore I saw death. You know, when I dropped her off and I was on my way home, I was pounding my hand on the steering wheel. I was so upset, and I was screaming in the car. I was the only one in the car, and I started crying. And all the way home, I could tell myself, you got to be prepared. You've got to be prepared, because she is not going to be with us very much longer. So get ready, prepare yourself to get that phone call saying she's dead, because that's all I was seeing. And that was so hard for me to take and understand that this, for years, I've been watching this beautiful woman who I fell in love with and married slowly start taking her life, and seeing that life slowly being, slowly slipping away. And for me, that was like one of the hardest things for me to handle, that, and knowing there's nothing I could do, nothing I could do. I couldn't comfort her even, because she didn't want the comfort. She didn't want it. And it's a lot different than those who have family members who are battling a terminal illness or something like that. They've got the drugs that they can help them kind of stay calm and relaxed. And we're there, we can hold their hand and tell them how much we love them and stuff. But when it comes to the addiction, it's a whole different story, but their life is still slipping away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, guys, let's take this time right now to stop for a quick commercial break. So stay with us so we can hear some more incredible stuff that Steve is sharing with us. So guys, we'll be right back.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flat work for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction and our special guest, Steve Chandler. Steve, thank you so much for being here with us. Just, man, the first part of the show was great. I'm always grateful, and I don't know what other word to put with it, with the people that come on our show to be so vulnerable, to open up and share a part of their life that, you know, yes, they are grateful that they went through it, but also just knowing that they can get it out there in hopes that someone is going to hear their story and it's going to help them get through, because recovery is possible. We hear it every week on this show, and it doesn't matter what the addiction is. We've had people talk about their sex addiction, porn addiction, gambling addiction. So any kind of addiction, it is possible to recover. So, you know, thank you so much for opening up and, just sharing your story. So, question for you. Your book, Death Wish, and I love the Death Wish, the path through addiction to a glorious life. What made you come up with that title, Death Wish? It almost sounds like a James Bond movie.
Yeah, or a Charles Bronson.
Yeah,
That
Charles
is a movie.
Bronson. That is a movie, huh?
It
I
is.
remember watching that. Yes.
Well, I didn't want to sugarcoat the subject, and you mentioned something earlier about looking in your wife's eyes and accurately seeing that this could be the last time I see her, or this could be the end of her life.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a a kind of jolting, shocking title, because my books had, until I decided to write about my addiction, my books had all been very hopeful and optimistic and reinventing yourself and how to motivate yourself and subjects like that. And the publisher didn't like it. He said, that's not a book that, unless people were into true crime or something, that's not a book that people are going to get hope from by reading the title. But I wanted to really maximize the seriousness, the loss of life. So when I wake up and go into the world and start drinking, and for me, sometimes that was early morning, I'd find some biker bar that was open at 6 a.m. And I think, well, it can't be that abnormal to go in and get drunk at 6 a.m. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a bar there for it.
Right. That's logical, right?
It's open.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a local business, and I like to give them my support.
Yeah.
So,
Keep it in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
but it was a slow death. It was a dousing out of the fire of life to take a drug like that. And it wasn't final suicide, but it's a kind of chronic low-level suicide.
Mm-hmm.
To have your drug be the center of your life, which it becomes, whether you can see it or not. It becomes everything. Are we going to go to that restaurant tonight? Wait a second. Do they serve drinks there? Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's they have great food. Yeah, I want to go there. And it becomes the center of your obsession. And so you really no longer have a life. It is like the ongoing slow suicide.
Yeah.
You don't know that it is, or you're not consciously aware that it is, but subconsciously you know it is. And so I'm going to stick with that title. Now I'll give it a hopeful subtitle. So if they keep reading beyond the title, they're going to see the book is about what occurs after addiction. And the book is not just about addiction. There isn't a whole lot in there about the depths to which my addiction went. I did reveal that, but my main objective was to say, and I said it in the book, the true title of this book is Life Wish, is that you convert from seeing life as just an imposition and a threat and a problem and a hassle. You convert to a life wish, which is moving toward the joy of life, gratitude for just being alive. And I remember later, after I went through addiction recovery, I got into the self-help field, and people would have gratitude journals. And they'd be putting down all kinds of things: my car, my yacht, I'm grateful for the time I got to go to a party with the Kardashians, and I'm grateful for my new clothing, my new shoes. I got my 30th pair of shoes yesterday. I love them. I love them all. And I'm grateful for my dog but I remember trying to keep a gratitude journal, and I tried to do it like they did, but I was realizing I'm trying to force myself to be grateful for things outside of me when my real gratitude is for life itself.
Yeah.
And so I would put things down like breathing and walking, singing, dancing, resting, looking out the window. And people would say, what are you, a Zen monk or something? This is America, man. Dream big. And that was, it was a revelation to me, because simply being grateful to have the gift of life is the real gift in recovery, because that was never there, even in the pre-drinking days. It was nervousness, self-consciousness, fear, status awareness, all kinds of things where I was focused on my own ego all the time. And so coming out of addiction, that part of life went away, that troubling part of what will people think of me? I need to win their approval and admiration every step of the way, because that's the source of love.
Yeah.
And what I saw in spiritual recovery, and it doesn't have to be AA. I don't want to, because some people do it with other formats and it works just fine. What I saw was, I'm just happy to be alive. And from there, I can create what I want in service to others. And it's very simple. It's no longer a haunted, complex life where I'm trying to manage all these things that are beyond my control in order to be happy. So the reason for the title was I liked the shock value of it. Hey, what's this formerly motivational guy doing, writing a book about death or deathwish? That's kind of creepy. But I wanted to hang in there and do it. And those who've read the book, and we put it in treatment centers and jails. I had a whole program that people donated to, where my daughter would send books out every day as gifts to libraries, treatment centers, jails, and schools, places like that, so that people could see it's not that you're a bad person who needs to become good and stop your addiction. There is a glorious life on the other side of that river if you're willing to cross the river. And that's the message I wanted people to get, and even family members, that there's hope, and this could be a good thing. Don't see it as pure, horrible, annoying tragedy that your family member has an addiction. There is now a chance, should they be lucky enough or receive the grace of God in such a way that they get on a recovery path, that their life will actually be better than it would have been had they not been addicted. And that's where, like you said, you hear these weird things like, I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm so grateful I became an alcoholic. And that sounds crazy when you're first in the meeting.
Yeah.
Why would anyone want to become an alcoholic? But they're trying to describe something that's very hard to describe. Spirit doesn't lend itself to human language very well. We come up with phrases, but they don't make a lot of sense until you experienced it. Yeah.
Well, I think when you have been there, your opinion, you're more trusted, because you understand what they're going through. And I'm noticing that in my sons now, because they are clean, is their insight into what they were going through now that they're clean hearing their side, the lies they were telling. And, people with that experience are so valuable now because you've been there. And when people turn to you for that help, they know that you can be trusted to understand where they are. And for me, as a parent, struggling with my children, I can always tell when someone doesn't know what it's like to have a child suffer this way, and or a family member. But I think even more valuable are the people like you that are reaching out and saying, I can help you. And they know that you can, because you've been there with them. It's easier for them to come to you than to me, even if it's my child, because I don't know what they're going through.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know. It helps me too, to understand.
Well, and that's a beautiful awareness on your part, because it takes a lot of pressure off of you,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows them their own path to recovery. Because I don't want to be shamed into recovering.
Yeah.
Or and it feels that way, even if you don't mean it that way. When other people try to help or try to get you to quit or it feels like you think you're better than I am. And
Yes.
I remember I had some friends who would say, you've got a real problem with your drinking. And my best friend said, from now on, if you come to my house, you're welcome here, but I will not serve you any drinks, and I am not drinking myself when you're here. You'll have to know that. So it's your choice. Now, I was furious. I said, who are you? Because
Exactly.
he and I used to drink together, and you drank, but he didn't drink alcoholically. He drank socially. And so I thought, who are you to judge me? Just because I like my drink. And fortunately, over the years, heavy drinking is no longer seen as macho and free spirit and admirable. There, in my days, if you could drink other people under the table, you were the
man.
Yeah.
You're the best. You're the best person in the room. Most admirable person there. And then look at that guy. He's already drunk. He can't hold his liquor. And it's the social awareness now is greater about addiction than it was. If you look at the movies from the 40s, where everybody is not just drinking but getting drunk. Everyone in the room at that night is just drunk, and it's funny. And the comedy is the comedy of the hangover. Somebody slams the door, or opens a curtain and the light comes in. And Dean Martin is saying, "Oh, what is this, the end of the world?" And everybody's laughing. Dean Martin made his whole TV persona.
Did.
Yeah.
Everybody sometime. And the audience loved it.
Yeah.
It was like, he knows how to party. He really knows how to have fun. And the awareness that no, it's a sickness. It's not that wonderful. In fact, it's kind of revolting to be around a grown-up person getting drunk.
That's true.
I mean, when you're not drinking yourself and people around you are getting drunk, it's not a pleasant experience at all.
It's enough to keep you sober.
It is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I hope I never go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you brought that up, Sylvia, because there was a time in my life as I started changing when my wife would start telling me all these troubles and how she was starting to have triggers and all that, which would usually get me really nervous, thinking, okay, she's going to be going to drink soon. Instead of me, as I brought up earlier, instead of me being her therapist, instead of her husband, I would say, well, can't you call Trish? Can't you call so-and-so? Because I don't understand what you're going through.
Yeah. True.
And they do, because they've walked that walk, you know. And in one of my talks that I did, I mentioned that, you know, I've had a lot of shoulder surgeries from all my years of ball. If I tore my rotator cuff in my bicep, which I've done, and I'm talking about how painful it is, and someone says, "Oh man, I feel for you." Oh yeah, this, that. And it's like, you know, I imagine how it feels like. No, you can't imagine what it feels like. You know, now if you had it, yes, you can imagine what it felt like, but don't sit and try to tell me you know what it feels like, because you don't. And it took me so long to figure that out, even with my wife, you know, because I thought I was one of those spouses that said, for hell's sake, just fricking quit. Just stop.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, I can have a few drinks and I can stop. What the hell's your problem? Well, we're all different. She was battling something inside that I had no clue what she was battling inside. So yeah, it's hard for us on the other side to understand the battles that each person is going through. And like you just said too, Steve, you know, when your friend said, "Hey, come on over, but I'm not having any drinks. I'm not serving any drinks." And you're like, "Well, who the hell are you?"
I'll bring my own bottle then.
Yeah, I'll just bring my own damn bottle. I'll stuff it in my cowboy boot or something. But
I'll put it in my soda.
Yeah.
Right. I used to do stuff like that. I'd have a Coke.
Yeah.
Have rum in it. Yeah, I've got my Coke. I love Coke.
Uh-huh.
I love my Coke more than anything. And people would smell it on me like, yeah, right.
That smells like Crown Royal.
You know, one thing one person said to me who had been through it and was helping me see that I was not alone. I was not, that I was not some kind of special person with special, unique demons that I was battling.
Yeah.
He would say that the thought process, if you're an alcoholic, is one drink is too many and 100 is not enough.
Yeah.
Now, to the average person, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, hang on. Number one drink's not too many. That's appropriate. Have a drink with dinner, or maybe two. But to the alcoholic mind, I understood it immediately. I said, that's it. If I have one drink, I'm not going to stop there. And I'm not, and so I knew the one drink was the gate to hell. But average person without addiction, they just can't see it. So it's very enlightened of you to say, can't you talk to your sponsor right now? Or can't you talk to Lynn or somebody who has been through this? And because you now know that that's someone she'll listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Not because she doesn't care. It would be like you trying to coach her on childbirth.
Yeah. Way to put it. Yeah, exactly.
It would be like me saying, oh, I had this torn rotator cuff and man, it was painful. It was worse than childbirth. Now, the women in the room are not going to warm up to me when I say that, because they obviously know I would
say that.
But yeah, you can say it. People will listen to you, but I can't say that.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So yeah, you're right. That's a really important component. The key to recovery is to be with someone who's been through it.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that's been proven to be a successful path that has any success at all, is to have someone be with someone who's been on the other side where you are, and they understand, and they're not judging it.
Right.
No judgment. It's like, hey, I've been there. I've been in jail. I've done this. I've done that. And I have a friend who works with me. And when I first met him, he said, the reason I agreed to work with you is I read your story about recovery. And he said, I knew you'd understand me because I'm a recovered drug addict and alcoholic. And we would tell our old stories, and we would try to do one-upmanship. He'd say, I spent time in jail. And I said, I did. And he said, well, how long were you in jail? I said, well, one night, DUI. And he said, well, I was in jail for 2 weeks. I said, okay, you win that one. But did you ever do this? And so there isn't judgment there anymore.
Yeah.
It's an understanding of what the drug can do to you. And to a non-addicted person, it looks like you are not taking responsibility for what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
You are choosing to drink every drink you're drinking. And although that's technically true, over there in the alcoholic, I'm aware of no choice. There isn't a sense of, as you pass me my third drink, there isn't a feeling I have a choice to turn it down. That's no longer there in the brain. It's just not there. And yet the person who's not an alcoholic will say, well, you could have stopped at 2 drinks last night at the party. You wouldn't have gotten your DUI. You chose to drink those other drinks. Now, if that's an addicted alcoholic, they'll agree with you to get along with you, but that's not how they experienced it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting that. Yeah, we just had a guest on our show a couple of weeks ago. He's out of California. His name was Leonard Lee Bichelle. I think that was how you pronounced his last name, but young age, got into the drugs, used to walk over to a candy store. He lost his father 3 days after his mom gave birth to him. His dad was on his way home from work, had a heart attack. And of course, so he grew up in a house where a single mom, and she was trying to raise the 2 kids. And he kind of, as he got older, just kind of did whatever he wanted to and got into dealing drugs. He dealt drugs for 23 years, never got caught. But I remember we actually used this for the caption for his show, but he said he would wake up every morning, he would smoke his breakfast, snort his lunch, and drink his dinner. I'm like, holy cow, what a way to live, but that was life for him. That was his everyday life, and traveling all around the world and going out to find the best hashish that he could find so he could bring it back home and he could sell it. And he's just like, it was just a way of life. And then one day that light bulb went off for him. And he's like, yeah, I've had some great times. I've traveled the world and I've been with a lot of beautiful women and I've had money, but is this really what life is about? So yeah. It really changed things for him. We're going to take a quick break again, and then I would like to come back and just ask Steve a couple more questions, and then, have him talk about some of his books if he would like to, and coaching if anybody's. Of course, he's semi-retired, so he may not want too many clients right now. But anyway, guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffy Town, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffy Town. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffy Town is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffy Town stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffy Town and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account, and we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffy Town can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com, that's taffytown.com, to find out more about the products and services that Taffy Town offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest, Steve Chandler. Again, Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to spend it with us. So we are very grateful and very blessed to have you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, a question that I wanted to bring up the first part of the show, but there was so many good things that I didn't want to break that cycle with a lot of stuff that was being shared. have you found with people, I mean, you've brought up that you've had addicts come up to you and, talk about their story and different things and what your book is about with the death wish, but also basically like a life wish as well. But I have found in the show, and even a lot of people that I've met going to AA meetings and different things with my wife, lots of trauma. It's not really the drugs or the alcohol or the porn or the gambling. It's something that they are masking. And I've heard many times that people that battle addiction, all the addiction is just a Band-Aid. They're just putting it over the cut to do their best to numb the bleeding or stop the bleeding, numb the pain. But have you found that a lot of them have gone through some kind of traumatic thing in their life? And the reason why I ask it, because it could be something so small. My friend, who we're actually doing an event in St. George, Utah in August, where it's called Healing Utah Success Summit. But she was an incredible young lady. She still is. Her father left at the age of 4 years old, and she really didn't know she had that pain of the abandonment inside of her until she got to where she got older and decided, being a 4.0 student was boring, and she started wanting to party with the college kids, and beer led to basically shooting heroin, in a certain time frame. But yeah, have you just found that? I mean, I know in the book it talks about that you had a father that was pretty strict, right? Do you think that was kind of some of the stuff that maybe had pushed you towards that?
No.
Okay.
Not for me. No, I have a lot of empathy for people who've gone through rough times and they say it drove me to drink, or there were underlying trauma where only alcohol could take it away. I agree. That's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, in my experience, I grew up in a very happy, privileged life. When I think back, what were the major traumas? Well, both of my parents were alcoholics, and that was uncomfortable. But it wasn't. But I had a good life, and so then you have to ask yourself, are the theories about the genetic component true? And there have been a lot of scientific studies that say there is sometimes a genetic component to being more vulnerable to alcohol or drugs or something like that. So it isn't always a trauma. But one thing I know for sure, there isn't anything you've been through or are going through that cannot be made worse by alcohol.
Yeah, amen.
There isn't anything that you can't make worse. Like if you're thinking this is as bad as it gets, I'm going to drink. No, it wasn't as bad as it can get. It's about to become as bad as it can get. So it's not necessary. I don't like, for example, when I do life coaching and I'm coaching somebody on creating their life that they want to have, and they're vulnerable enough to reveal that they have a drinking problem. And my position on that is, unless that is addressed and handled, anything we do together is not going to help you. Because if we try to do life coaching and teaching you more optimistic viewpoints and teaching you to be more creative, if we're trying to put that on top of alcoholic drinking, and that's why a lot of talk therapy never worked with alcoholics. Like, let's find out why you're drinking. And maybe if we find out why you're drinking, and we solve your past trauma, you won't drink anymore. That has turned out to be a not very successful path to sobriety. So, so I don't disagree that there are a lot of people who they got started that way, or that gave them some relief and they became addicted. but it doesn't have to. You can have everything going your way. You notice a lot of these famous wealthy families, the Kennedy children who are dying of overdoses and skiing into trees and dying and driving off a bridge with Mary Jo Kopechne, and they had everything.
Yeah.
So the alcohol is going to get that you're not immune to it because you are, quote, psychologically healthy. It can get you, and when it gets you, it's got you.
Yeah. Yeah, that and usually by the time you realize that it's got you, you're in really deep.
Yeah,
Really deep.
you are.
That was, oh, go ahead.
If you ever realize it at all,
Yeah.
My father never stopped drinking right up to his death. It was the cause of his death. And my mother stopped a year before she died and became a completely different person. She went to church and stopped drinking, and it was like, who is this person?
Wow.
She's wonderful. She has a sense of humor. She's kind. That's not who we grew up with.
Oh, that's sad.
So that was a wonderful thing in her life. Unfortunately for my father, he just kept chronically drinking right up to the end.
Wow.
And he joked about it. He was one of those old macho drinkers, and he was successful in his career. So he thought, who's going to blame me? What do you see that's wrong?
Yeah.
And he would say things like, it would be 10 o'clock, we'd be driving somewhere, and he'd pour a drink, and his new wife would say, why are you drinking? It's 10 o'clock. Why are you having a drink now? And he would say, this drink doesn't know what time it is. And that made sense to him.
Yeah.
That was like, what kind of question is that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. My dad grew up with a guy they've known. We just lost our father in February, but there was a guy that he grew up with. They've known each other since they were old enough to walk. And we used to go hunting a lot together, and would do a lot of bow hunting, for mule deer. And I remember one morning, I think it was after the morning hunt, we're in there in the camper cooking some eggs and some bacon and stuff. And he was mixing him a gin and tonic. And it was probably about 10:30, quarter to 11. And somebody made a comment. I don't remember if it was my uncle or my uncle's cousin or who, but somebody made a comment. And remember the book that you used to order called Reader's Digest?
yeah,
I mean, my parents had that every single month.
yeah.
But he goes, let me tell you something. He says, I read this article in Reader's Digest. It said 1 beer equals to 2 eggs and 2 strips of bacon. So he says, I'm just going to drink my breakfast. And he says, and I think I'll have a couple servings. But that's how he looked at it as well, Yeah. Well, Steve, gosh, you have gotten 40 plus books that you have written.
Wow.
Is that right? Is it 40?
Yeah, it's the old saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, hoping for a different result.
Yeah.
It just happened that way. I'm always writing a book. I love it. So, and just, many times I've thought, well, that's my last book. And then one day I'll wake up and say, wait a minute. There's one more thing I want to write about, and that'll be my last book. So that just kept happening over and over.
Wow. Good for you. And I'm really excited to get in deeper, into your death wish. I am really excited to get into that. That's another cool thing about doing this show is we've had so many people that are authors that have written books, and every one of them have been really, really kind and generous and sends me a copy. Sometimes they send a few copies so we could pass them out, which we're happy to do. but it's so cool to hear the stories that people are doing, and this is probably something that you may even disagree with, but it's that someday, I want to write my book about the story of my wife. And I've started writing some things down.
Good.
Yeah, I'm right now as I'm working more on my speaking career. A lot of the notes that I'm writing down, I just realized a couple of weeks ago, it's like, oh crap, I can use this for the book. I'm already starting to write it, not even realizing it, So yeah. It's really cool. And I love how even when I read in the Ultimate Coach book, how you even got into coaching and speaking, I mean, you started out, wasn't you doing like a marketing type thing for Time Max? And it kind of went from there. And Hardison is the one that pretty much pushed you. You said it earlier, not to be anybody else but you, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And you've been doing coaching for how many years now?
I think it's about 30 now.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Wow. And you would have probably never even thought life would have pushed you that direction, right?
No. And people I meet who I knew in high school, they're just dumbfounded. Like,
I bet.
least likely to be writing self-help books.
Yeah.
So,
and it is so amazing where life takes us, and even somebody who battles an addiction, where life has taken them because of that addiction.
Mhm.
We my wife and I was honored to be invited to a ribbon cutting. She's correcting my English. She's my English teacher. But we were invited to a ribbon cutting for a recovery center that's in Salt Lake City here. It's called the Other Side Academy. And it was so cool to go there. And I went out and did a talk there back in December. And it was so cool that some of the students that were still there came up and they're like, hey, you're Al, you're the guy that came out and spoke. And I'm like, yeah. And it was really cool that they remembered me. But what was really nice is one of the guys that I was speaking with, one of the students, I said, I would have never, ever thought that my wife's addiction would be putting me in a place like this. Now, here I am at a recovery center. We've been asked to, I don't know, half a dozen times or more to go out and talk. It's like, who would have ever thought that that was the direction all this was going to take me in? And I think, Steve, you even mentioned it earlier in the show. Not all the ones that battle addiction make it. A lot of them do lose their battle, but it seems like the ones that have made it, they're out there, they're changing lives. I got goosebumps just started popping up all over because they're out there changing lives, and they're doing everything that they can to help even just one person. And I have even said now, everything that my wife and I have gone through, it got to a point so bad I was thinking about committing suicide because I couldn't deal with it anymore. But to say, with our guests and doing this show, if it can help one person, either the one battling the addiction or the one that's on the other side of the addiction, because if I thought about taking my life being on the other side of addiction, there's other people thinking the same thing. And Sylvia, I know you've gone through a lot of pain and heartache. So I know you and I can understand each other's pain, but it was worth it. It really was worth it if we could just help one person. And you basically said it too in the book. I remember reading that in that book. If you could just help one person understand a little bit more that is suffering, man, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
That's it.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Thank you, Steve. Well, to end this show, because again, we want to honor and respect your time. Is there something that you would like to leave with our listeners?
Well, if they're interested in that book, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And many of my other books refer to my addiction time and what occurred after, but that's the one that really focuses on it. So that's on Amazon. That's the only promotional remark I'll make, because that's what might help somebody someday.
Mhm.
And that's this one right here, right? The Death Wish.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we'll be sure, you have a website here, and I'm sure a lot of people can find information. So when the show goes out, is with your permission, we'd like to put your website down on there so people can check things out. So, that's everything you just kind of want to share here?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
for having me. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the pleasure was ours, to be honest with you. Yeah. Thank you so much. So guys, again, we want to say thank you to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral. Thank you guys for believing in what we are doing and for your love and your kindness. Thank you to Resilience Talk Network for allowing us to come into their studio and do this show. And a huge thank you to all our other sponsors. We have so many other sponsors that when we first started doing this, we named them all off, but they will always be in the notes of the show. So thank you. And again, a huge thank you to our guests and all our listeners, because this show just keeps growing, and it's growing because of all of you and all our incredible guests and guest co-hosts. So guys, thank you so much. If I keep going, I'm going to start crying, because that's how much this means to me. So anyway, and one last thing, guys, please, when you see our shows pop up, please share with a friend. Just even if it's just sharing with one friend, share and ask them to subscribe, because it really helps us build things. So we're going to end it with this, as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.
A loved one or someone you know struggle with addiction?
Have you lost hope, or are you struggling to make connections?
Have you been to other treatment programs and have yet to reach your full potential?
We are Matter Behavioral Health. At Matter Behavioral Health, we understand substance abuse treatment works best when the client is taught ways of identifying for themselves their own dysfunctional views of their life that trigger their self-limiting beliefs and leads back to addiction.
We help you get to the core of what's causing your addiction.
We offer inpatient and outpatient services. To find out what's best for you, call us at 435-462-2781. That's 435-462-2781.
Don't wait, give us a call. Your life depends on it. Call us at 435-462-2781.